And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Vasasio versus Pierce. Step forward.
Juliet Vasasio is suing her ex-boyfriend, Omar Pierce, for unpaid rent and a security deposit. Omar says Juliet is angry that he went back to his wife.
Ms. Vasasio, this very unhappy gentleman who's standing next to you, Mr. Pierce, used to be your boyfriend.
Yes.
Even though he was married. And you have a child together.
Yes.
Mistake number 2. And it is your claim that the two of you leased an apartment for 6 months because you claim Mr. Pierce wanted to move out of your parents' home where the two of you were living with your baby and have a place of your own. You signed the 6 months lease. He didn't really hold up his end of the bargain to pay the half of the rent, which you had agreed to, and then he moved out, leaving you stuck with the lease. Mr. Pierce says that you couldn't rip him from the heart of his wife and 2 sons, and that he decided to go home, and that he paid rent while he lived there, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Did I explain your position, sir?
No, I don't owe any of the money.
What?
I don't owe any money.
Oh, this is going to be harder than I thought. When did he live in your parents' house?
The first time he moved in was in May.
Of 2006?
Yes.
How old is your baby?
He's 2.5. He'll be 3 in October.
Is that your only child?
Yes.
Why would you have a baby with somebody who's married?
Because he lied and told me he wasn't married. He told me he had just separated and he was divorced from his wife 6 months prior to when I met him.
He said he was separated or divorced?
The same difference. He said...
No, it's not the same difference. Separated is not divorced.
At first, he didn't have a wife. I would have never went with him if he told me that he was married.
And when did he finally tell you he was married?
He never did. He never told me that he was married. I had to find out from his wife that he was married. And it was after I had my son.
Was he living with you?
No, he wasn't.
Why wasn't he living with you?
I don't know.
Did you ask him why we're not living together?
No.
Did you ask him why we're not married?
No, he knows that I wouldn't want to marry him. I told him, I don't want to get married. Why do I need to get married? If I live with somebody, why would I need to get married?
Well, why if you're fighting with somebody? You're right, you shouldn't marry somebody you're fighting with, right? You also shouldn't make a baby with them.
That was before I found out that he was married.
What difference does it make if he's married or not? If you don't want to get married and you're not getting along with him.
We were not fighting before that. Everything was fine before that. There was no fighting or nothing.
You mean everything was fine until you got pregnant?
Yes. Well, he was okay up until the month I had my baby.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a receiving clerk.
Where?
I don't want to say.
In what city?
In San Marcos.
How long have you been a shipping clerk for the company that you work for now?
Close to a year.
And before that, where did you work?
Oh, I didn't work.
Huh?
I didn't work. Oh, I did work, but in numerous places.
What kind of work does the plaintiff do?
I work in the emergency room.
What kind of work does the plaintiff do?
She works in a hospital, I guess.
What do you mean you guess?
Why I see her go there. I mean, yeah, she works in a hospital. Excuse me, I don't want to be...
Yeah, don't be a smart aleck, sir. You know, you're having trouble just keeping your head above water here. And what prompted you to decide to get an apartment with him? Because now you're living with your parents and your son, right? Everything is nice. The baby has some stability, live at home, so he's got grandparents, nice. Now you know he's married. And he says, let's get an apartment together.
He's the father of my child. I'm going to give him a chance. If I'm going to want him in my son's life, I'm going to give him that chance. He told me that he was in the process already of divorcing his wife. 2 weeks before we signed our lease, before we were going to move in together, he told me that his divorce was going to be final. That obviously was
So you signed the
not true.
lease. Can I see the lease, please?
Yes, you may.
He moved out?
In January of 2007.
So he lived there with you for 2 months, right?
Yes.
What?
We moved in October, and I gave her rent for October.
It says that the rent is due the first date of each month beginning November 2nd.
Thank you. It's November.
Your lease started November 2nd,
Yes.
2006. Why did you move out?
I went back with my wife and kids, went home.
You went back with your wife and kids. Well, what'd you expect her to do with this apartment?
Well, she told me before you even moved into the place that I can go back to my family, go back, break the lease, and go back to my family.
Just a second. She what? Say it again to me,
She told
so
me-
I believe it.
She told me that if it didn't work out between us, I could break the lease.
And go back to your wife.
Yes.
Those words never came out of a woman's mouth.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Not her mouth.
Thank you, especially
Not
with
just
somebody with a kid.
Just a second, don't it? Look at me. Those words not only didn't come out of her mouth, they didn't come out of any woman's mouth in history. If it doesn't work out between us, you can break the lease and go back to your wife.
Yeah, because she knew how I felt about my wife and her.
What, are you crazy? Why did you sign this lease, Mr. Pierce?
Because I wanted to be free. I thought it was going to work out between me and her.
Because what?
I wanted to be free. I wanted, because we would have fun. I thought it would be, work out between me and Juliet.
So you wanted to have fun. You couldn't have fun in her parents' house.
We agreed to move out so we could be together.
You wanted to be free.
Yeah, well,
you wanted to be able to drink and smoke and do what you wanted to do and have a good time. You couldn't do that at her parents' house. And her parents probably looked at you like I'm looking at you and saying, why? I raised this nice girl and she brings me home a bum. Why? What happened? Mr. Pierce, you have a responsibility to pay her for the remainder of the lease, your half. Do you want me to explain why to you, sir?
No.
No?
Well, because I don't owe her any money. When I stayed there, she said that it was okay, because she knew I had to support my other kids.
When I was a kid, my grandmother used to tell me that, God one day God gave you a heart, one day a soul, one day you got a brain, one day you got... He was absent. He was absent. You picked the wrong day to be absent, Mr. Pierce. Listen to what I'm saying to you, sir. You have 3 children. You made 3 children. You can't afford to have 3 children. You probably can't even afford to take care of yourself. So you have to find some other hobby other than having children. That's number 1. Number 2, sir, look over here. You signed a lease. That has meaning. Whether you pay taxes or not is not my issue. Signing this contract is my issue. Do you understand, sir?
Yes.
Signing this contract obligated her to pay this rent. Now, if they can't come after you because they can't find you, that is a problem. Do we understand each other, Mr. Pierce?
Yes, ma'am.
You understand me loud and clear now, Mr. Pierce?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. I'm glad now we understand each other, sir. So when you sign a lease for 6 months with the mother of your child and take her out of a home where she's living relatively comfortably, rent-free, and then you get an epiphany and want to be near your other baby's mother, that doesn't mean you are absolved from paying her for the rent. Do you understand, sir? If Uncle Sam can't find you, I can. Do we understand each other?
Yes, ma'am.
Very good. The rent is $825. According to your complaint, he was supposed to pay $400. $400 times 4 equals $1,600. That's for the 4 months remaining on the lease after you moved out, sir. Do you understand?
Yes.
Goodbye. Judgment for the plaintiff. That's right.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He signed the lease. He shouldn't have signed the lease if he wasn't going to move in.
End of the score. I don't know. Any other way to say it.
I thought that's what he wanted, for us to be together, to be a family. And
I thought it was going to be, fun, I guess. I don't know.
I thought it was still fun. I guess it wasn't.
Women.
I guess that happens. You change your mind overnight, right?
Gonzalez is suing her sister, Myra Gonzalez, for driving her truck while she was in jail and for a loan so she could take a vacation.
All rise. Yes, this is case number 177 on the calendar in the matter of Gonzalez versus Gonzalez. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
What's your first name?
Marty.
And yours?
Myra.
Your mother liked M's?
Yes, she did.
All of us.
All of them.
7 of us.
All M's?
Well, 5 kids and the 2 parents, all M's. 7.
All M's. According to the complaint, you made a loan to your sister when she was having some difficulty in the amount of $2,500. You want that money back. And then you were incarcerated for a period of about 2 months and claimed that she used a truck that belonged to you without your permission, and she wrecked it. You were paid by the insurance company for your wrecked truck, but you believe that she should compensate you for the time that she used the truck without your permission.
Correct.
Ms. Gonzalez says that she had your permission to drive the truck and that the $2,500 that she acknowledges that you gave her was a gift because you were a sister and helping her out. First, because I'm a curious person, what were you in jail for?
I had a confrontation with the school official, and with 9/11, they consider that a terrorist threat anytime you fight with the official.
Is that the first time you were incarcerated?
Yes, ma'am.
Must have been some confrontation.
It was.
Was it about you or about a child?
My children. I wanted to take them out of school, and they wouldn't let me.
Why?
Their dad has primary custody, and he instructed the school officials not to let me take them without his permission. But that was the day that I was supposed to have them. He called the school, told them not to let them
go with you.
With me, correct.
Got it. Satisfied my curiosity. So you were incarcerated for 60 days.
Correct.
Now, prior to that, you told me that in your complaint that you made a loan to your sister. Tell me about the loan.
Well, it was against my best wishes. I was incarcerated. I had only contact with my older sister, Maria, who's sitting over there.
So you made this loan to her while you were in jail?
Correct. While I was down, depressed, upset.
Well, tell me about that.
During the time I was being incarcerated, my sister Myra and her husband had refinanced their home for $40,000. I guess it was a surprise to her, but he took off with the $40,000 and her best friend, who he had been seeing for a year, and she used to take care of her son while they used to go out together. So anyway.
That's a lot of information that I really didn't need.
Okay, so my sister Maria asked me on 2 different occasions that Myra had no money and no car, and she was going to be out in the street because she lost her job because she was depressed and upset and all that. So even though I told my sister I don't want to do it, I know what's going to happen, my sister Maria kept coaxing and pushing. You're the only one that can help her. You're the only one. I had no job. I'd been fired. I was in jail, but yet I was the only one of 5 kids who could help her. So I did it.
You must
I
have
agreed
had
to.
money from something. Where did you have the money from?
I always have savings. I'm an auditor. I'm an accountant. I always have a little stashed away.
So you were in jail at the time that this agreement was made?
Correct.
But so far, you're just telling me that you had conversations with your older sister. You're the older sister?
Yes.
Nothing with the defendant?
Correct. Until after I got out of jail.
Okay. So I want you to tell me how you got the money to your sister.
My sister Maria, I was out in between the 60 days. I gave her my savings.
What do you mean you were out?
I went in twice because I had a little problem with the roommate, so we were both taken to jail. But anyway, they took me back on the first offense. So during that time, I gave my sister permission. I gave her power of attorney to take care of my business while I was incarcerated because I didn't want...
You gave your older sister that authority?
Yes, and I gave her my money to put in her bank account to pay my bills while I was incarcerated because I didn't know how long they were going to keep me there. I didn't want anything to be repossessed or foreclosed on.
Okay, do you have that power of attorney? Do you have all the paperwork?
No, I don't have the power of attorney. I didn't think I was going to need that part. No, ma'am.
You have a check?
Yes, I have a check register that shows...
I don't want to see the check register. I want to see your return check.
That would have been with my sister Maria, and I asked her to get them. She never got them to me, but I don't think either one are denied the fact that she did take the money.
I want to see a bank statement showing that the $2,500 was taken out. The check register is not proof of anything.
I asked her...
You're an accountant.
Yes,
You're an auditor.
Correct. But it wasn't in my hands. It was her account that she was in charge of.
Just a second. They had to take the money out of your account, madam, in order to put it in her account.
No, I took it out myself while I was out in the middle of my 60 days.
Show me from your account. Just show me from your account, Miss Gonzalez. Show me from your account that you took out money. I understand that she doesn't have to bring proof because she doesn't have to prove anything to her account. But your check register is not proof of anything. I could write something down in a check register and never have a check.
True. That's correct.
Right. So show me.
I don't have that because I didn't think that they weren't disputing the fact that I actually...
I need it.
I don't have it, ma'am. I don't have that part. I don't have that.
Well, that's a big part. That's the main part of your lawsuit. It would seem to me that you would bring all of that information. It sure does. Now, let's get to the truck. When did you take physical possession of this truck?
When she was incarcerated. The reason I took it is because she had sold the truck to one of her tenants, and I happened to get the truck because she told my sister, I need the truck back and the expedition. So I went out of my way, brought her expedition back because, she didn't know what was going on with that. And
well, how could you take it back if you just told me she sold it to one of her tenants?
Because she told my sister that she didn't remember selling it to this one person. And he gave me the pink slip. He said, yes, Marty did sell it to me. Well, obviously she's saying no, he didn't want no problems.
So you're telling me that this tenant of Miss Gonzalez's said to you, here's the pink slip. She gave it to me for the truck that we're talking about, which means he had to have given us some money.
Well, I believe so too, but Marty told my older sister she didn't sell him the truck.
Well,
he didn't.
and how would he get the pink slip?
Exactly, that's what I say. Well,
How much did you get for this truck?
I didn't. One of my roommates.
No. Listen to me very carefully. In insurance.
$92.37.
What kind of truck was it?
It was a 95 Chevy double cab 4-wheel drive Silverado.
11 years old. Did you owe any money on it?
No, I didn't.
So you got $9,237, right? What do you want from your sister?
I'm not asking her for the money for the truck. She took my vehicle for 4 months without paying me any money,
You
no
were
rent.
only in jail for 2 months.
Correct. So she took my vehicle without my permission. She drove it. She had no car. So I think she should pay a rental fee. I never sold it to my roommate. You know, you don't always know the person 100% who you're renting a room to. So anyway, he was doing all kinds of dealings while I was incarcerated
I'm not
after the
talking
fact.
about it. I'm just trying to figure out who the players are in this case. And it's coming around very quickly who the players are.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Then why didn't you get it back?
I was in disarray myself, being
Miss
incarcerated.
Gonzalez, I don't think you've been in disarray for a minute in your life.
And later today,
You have to be drug tested in order to drive a truck.
Why do you think I'm on drugs?
You prepared to be drug tested today?
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Marty Gonzalez claims her sister, Myra Gonzalez, drove her truck without permission. Marty also says Myra owes for a loan to take a vacation.
You did not have a contract with your sister.
No, I did not.
You did not have a rental agreement with your sister.
No, I did not.
And there is not a question in my mind that her use of the car did not devalue it for insurance purposes. Because if she took your car without permission, right?
Correct.
And if you told the police that she took your car without permission, your insurance company might very well have disclaimed on the policy and not paid you your $10,000. So you must have indicated that there was somebody driving your car who had permission to drive it. It was your sister. Didn't you tell that to the insurance company?
No, I told them that she was driving it. One of her...
Just a second. You told them that she was driving it. And did you tell your insurance company, by the way, who's your insurance company?
Liberty Mutual.
Did you tell Liberty Mutual that it was your sister?
Yes.
Did you tell Liberty Mutual that you had filed a claim with the police that your car had been stolen or taken without your permission?
No, ma'am.
You didn't tell them that?
No.
Well, why didn't you tell them that? If that's what you're telling me now, why didn't you tell them that your car had been stolen, taken without your permission?
Well, I knew where it was, but it was still without my authority.
Then why didn't you get it back?
I was in disarray myself, being incarcerated.
Miss Gonzalez, I don't think you've been in disarray for a minute in your life. I think that you're in very much control of what goes on around you. You got paid almost $10,000 for this truck.
But that's to replace it, not for her renting of it.
She didn't rent it. You had no rental agreement with her. And you had adequate opportunity once you got out of jail after 60 days to get it back if you wanted it back. The case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
My sister is used to taking advantage of people.
From day one, she's always been greedy.
And she goes around boasting about all the cheating.
It's just her way of being.
And lying that she does to other people.
It has to be her way or no way.
I loaned her the money. I was the only one there to loan her money.
She helped me out. I also helped her out when she was incarcerated.
And this is how I get treated. I don't get a dime back.
Even till this day, she hasn't even said, "Oh, thank you for coming down."
So since I was the good guy, then I guess I got to pay for it, not once but twice.
It's just a win-win situation always for her.
Oh, I don't want to have any dealings with her.
I have no idea. Time will tell.
I hate to say what I would tell her if I saw her right in front of my face.
Daniel Roadcap is suing his ex-wife, Dorothy Adams, for unpaid loans and for stealing property from their home.
All rise. Yeah, this is case number 227 on the calendar in the matter of Roadcap versus Adams. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Mr. Roadcap, this is your former wife.
Yes, ma'am.
You have been divorced for how long, sir?
Since August of 2004.
And you have one child?
Yes.
A daughter?
Yes.
And that child is currently living with you?
Yes.
After a protracted custody dispute?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Correct.
This is your claim. You claim that subsequent to the divorce, you made 2 loans to your wife. You want those 2 loans repaid.
Yes.
You also claim that when she moved out of a house that you own, she took property that did not belong to her.
Correct.
She had been living in a house that you purchased at some point after the divorce in order to give your wife and daughter a home. She had what you term a rent-to-buy situation with the home.
Correct.
She was supposed to make the payments on the mortgage. Subsequently, you claim that she failed to maintain the house, You took possession of the house, and when she moved out, she took property from the house of certain appliances and things that belonged to you.
Correct.
Your former wife says that you did, in fact, make one loan to her for some bills. That loan was repaid with certain small cash payments and a pool table that she gave you in exchange for the rest of the money. The second loan that you made to her was really not a loan, which was something that had to do with the line of credit that you had on the house. And since now you have the house, it's your problem. And the property that was taken from the house was hers. That's your defense?
Yes.
Okay. When was the first loan and why, Mr. Roadcap?
The first loan was in November of 2005, and it was for $1,855, and it was because she had gotten
behind in her bills.
She had just resigned from the job that she had.
Did she call you?
Yes.
And what did she say when she called you?
She needed money to catch up on some of the bills and to get the kids Christmas gifts.
What arrangements did you make for repayment?
She had notified me that when she got her tax check back at the first of the year, that she would pay me in full then.
What happened when you got your tax check back, Miss Adams?
That wasn't the agreement at all. The $2,000 that I had borrowed from Daniel, he actually got it from a separate line of credit that he had for a bank that he used.
Don't make things more complicated than they are. You borrowed $2,000. He says $1,855. You say $2,000.
Those are two separate loans, Your Honor.
I'm talking about the $1,855 loan.
The $1,855 came from that home equity line of credit. I paid that every month myself. That was part of our rent-to-own agreement for the house. That was actually my bill. It was never meant to be repaid to him. I paid that $130 a month for as long as I lived in the home.
Just a second. $1,855 in November of 2005. And you say that you totally paid for that loan from your home equity line of credit on the house.
Completely paid for. I paid it, I paid 7 payments. He knows of 5 payments I paid on it. So he's actually asking for $1,833 when he knows that I paid at least 5 of those payments already.
Well, just show me.
I don't have that with me.
Well, this is where you need it, madam. This is where you need it. This is court. This is what you're coming for. All you have to do is show me that after November 5th, on this revolving line of credit that you had, you made payments. Show me.
If he has, I don't know.
Not he, your check.
Well, there should be some kind of proof to saying when is the last payment I paid in the house.
Miss Adams.
I don't have that.
Miss Adams, all I want are your checks.
I don't have it with me.
Well, it's unfortunate. $1,855. When was the next loan?
That was at the end of November, which was $1,128, and that was $2,000.
What was that for?
That was, I didn't have the money all at once, so I had to isolate and get 2 different loans. Here's the copies of the checks.
She acknowledges that you gave her that money. $3,855. How much was repaid?
She made $80. She made December and January, so it was 2 payments made on the $80, and the home equity line of credit was late January, February, and not at all in March, and she tried to make it again late in April, and it was too late then. By then, the home equity line of credit was already, she defaulted.
She made 2 payments, is that correct?
On the $2,000, yes, ma'am.
What about on the $1,855?
She made 3 payments.
So that's 5 altogether of
yes,
$160. Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, what else?
At the time, we had a property agreement that she had a rent-to-own. She defaulted on her contract, so at that time, I took over the payments, and she had till June the 1st to get the house and everything in her name, and she did not do that. So July the 1st, she had to move out, which I asked her if she didn't want to move out, she could have rented it, but she chose not to. At that point, she left July the 1st, and she left the house like this.
Can I see it, please?
I took 8 truckloads of trash out of the house. It is a...
There was nothing left in the house when I moved out of the house.
Including the refrigerator.
Shh. How many children do you have, Miss Adams?
I have 3 children.
Only one of them is yours?
Correct.
How old are the other 2 children?
My oldest will be 13 this month, and I have a 10-year-old son.
Are they living with you?
Not at this time.
Who do they live with?
Well, my oldest daughter, for about 6 months now, has lived with her father in California. And my son, I guess he is with my mom since Daniel took the house.
Okay, the house is a mess. Who bought the appliances?
I did. Here's the receipts for them. I
Your
have
Honor.
2 receipts.
Can I see the
I have 2 receipts because I can't measure, And I had to take one refrigerator back.
Of the refrigerator I purchased when I bought the house. The house was brand new. It didn't have appliances in it when I first bought it, or got it from him. And
it had no
I had
appliances.
to purchase those things.
Just a second. It had no appliances. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, it didn't have refrigerators. It did have a stove, which was accidentally taken from the movers on the last day. I've mentioned to Daniel that he can go get it. It's in the storage building. He doesn't want that. He'd much rather keep me in court over and over again.
Shh, just a second. Why did you take the stove if you didn't buy it?
I had told the movers, it was just some friends of mine, I wasn't there that day, I told them to go get the refrigerators and the washer and dryer, and they just took the stove.
Well, that was a mistake.
Yes, and I have it, and I've told him he can go get it.
He doesn't have to go get it. Why should he have to go through the expense of going to get it?
It's right there in town, where, like, just a couple blocks from where I live.
Well,
he has a big truck, I don't, and he and I was friends this whole time, and until May, when I got married, Daniel and I was friends. All these agreements was made with us being friends. That's why I don't have documentation of this and that and this and that.
Well, what happened, Miss Adams, is that you got married in May and planned to move with your daughter and his daughter to another state.
My husband's in the military.
I don't care whether he is in the military or he's in the circus. You can't take his child away.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You don't want to discuss with me why you, who have 3 children, don't have any of them living with you, do you? And it's not because he took your house away.
And later today,
alcohol basically has ruined his life. As a matter of fact, he has 4 DUIs. 1 was on a 4-wheeler.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Daniel Roadcap claims ex-wife Dorothy Adams owes for loans and for taking his property from their shared home. Dorothy says Daniel is angry over her new marriage.
When did you tell him that you were planning to move to Georgia? When did she tell you?
About May 2nd.
And when was the move going to take place?
I had no idea. It was very discreet.
When was the move to take place?
Well, my husband's still
just give me a date.
It'll be after January of this year before I could even possibly move. He's still in AIT.
When were you planning to move?
That's what I gave him, an indefinite, like way back, like several months from then.
Is that right? What did she tell you?
I had no idea. She was in a separate relationship, and they broke up April 24th.
Yeah.
At May 15th, she was married to another guy I had never met, my daughter had never met, and she said that she was going to be moving out of state.
Your Honor, the reason why Daniel didn't know of my new marriage and of my expectations and what I was planning on getting from that is because these are his legal records showing that Daniel is not Mr. Sweet Kind, here, let me help you out here. He's got assault and battery. He's got shoot and throw missiles at an occupied vehicle.
I don't care, madam. Listen to me. It has nothing to do with this. You don't want to discuss with me why you, who have 3 children, don't have any of them living with you, do you?
No, but this is why I wanted to get out of the state.
Listen to me. And it's not because he took your house away. I mean, if you have 3 children, somebody takes your house away, you don't let your children go someplace else with your mother, with their other father. You go to a shelter someplace. You get a job and you get an apartment. So we don't have to go into history. The only issue that I have before me is whether you owe him this money and whether you took the refrigerator and the stoves that he purchased. And why, after what apparently was a reasonable period between the two of you having been divorced, he had a house, you were in the house with your 3 children, you needed money, you called him, he loaned you money, there was no problem. Problem was when you married somebody that he didn't know and you told him you're taking your kids and you're moving hundreds of miles away. And he said, what, are you crazy? You're not going to take my daughter. You may take your other 2 children. Their fathers may not care, but you're not taking my daughter away. And then you got angry, and you left the house like a trash bin, and you took property that didn't belong to you. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Until I come up with something, concrete against him, I'm just going to keep on doing this.
It's not the fact that she cares. It's just the fact that she's all out for herself.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Hayes versus Hayes. Step forward, please.
24-year-old Brittany Hayes is suing her father, Jerome Hayes, for missed payments on a 96 Cadillac DeVille.
Miss Hayes, this is your father.
Yes.
And your complaint is that several years ago, you purchased a car. It was for your dad. He didn't have sufficient credit, so you took out the loan. The agreement was that he would make the payments on the car. According to you, he stopped making the payments on the car. You took the car back, in effect repossessing the car, kept the car for a period of time, then traded it in for another car, which you put on your credit card. And you say that your father agreed to make those credit card payments for you.
Correct.
Your father said that's not what the agreement was. So that's what it's about. When was this car purchased?
February 27th of 2003. It was a 1996 Cadillac DeVille, a faux convertible top.
I don't care what it looked like, quite frankly. Nobody has it anymore. You don't have it, he doesn't have it, and I certainly don't have it. Okay, and when did you take the car back?
It was end of November of 2003, the same year.
So I didn't have the car very long. How much was the total cost that was financed?
$10,355.84.
That's what was financed?
Correct.
From February until November, did you make the payments on the car, sir?
Up until the October payment.
What happened in October?
I was in between jobs.
Had you told her that you couldn't make the car payment that month?
Yeah, and she screamed at me.
You said, I don't have the money to make the car payment.
Yeah, and she replied that I'm not going to make the payment. You need to get off your rear and go get you another job. I'm in the process of going back to work. She took the car.
She took the car then, in
Yes.
November of 2003?
Yes.
Okay. What happened next, Mr. Hayes?
2 weeks after she took the car, I was back to work. I tried contacting her via cell phone. She never returned the phone call. Several months went by. I'd say about 4.5, 5 months later, she finally returned the phone call, stating that she didn't have the car anymore.
What did she do with it?
She traded it in for a Honda SUV because she said the Cadillac was a gas guzzler.
Okay. Now, was the car registered in your name or in your daughter's name?
Well, the problem was I had an out-of-state license, and that's why I went through her. I put $2,500 down cash on the car, gave her $200 to help me out. And the plan was for me to get it out of her name and put it in my name, which I had
So the car was
difficulties.
also titled in her name?
Yes.
And your father gave you the down payment of $2,500?
Correct.
What were the monthly payments on the car?
$298.34.
Okay, so let's make it easy for me because, you know, I'm math challenged. Let's make it $300 per month. Okay, so your father had the car 8 months. He had the car and made 8 months' worth of payments. Now, when you took the car back, was it your intention to sell it or was it your intention to use it?
I was unable to use it. I couldn't even afford the gas in that car.
Did you sell it or trade it?
I traded it into the dealership.
Well, that's a problem because you didn't trade it in for its maximum value if you traded it into a dealer. The dealer doesn't give you the same price as you would get if you sold it privately. You understand that? For my own curiosity, what did you get when you sold the car?
$2,500.
$2,500 on a $10,000 car?
Correct.
Well, I mean, that's ridiculous. The car was 9 months old. So I don't know where you were getting your advice from, but that was a very bad trade that you made.
I was under a time constraint. I didn't have the time.
It was a very bad trade that you made, Ms. Hayes.
I was 21 years old at the time, Your Honor.
Well, then you should have asked for some advice, madam.
My father was of no help at the time.
Well, should have asked for somebody for advice. Now, when you spoke to your father about it, your father said what to you?
My father was very hard to contact throughout the time. I was getting frequent phone calls from the finance company notifying me of late payment, saying that I had not made a payment.
I'm not talking about history. Let's understand each other, Miss Hayes. I'm not talking about history. I'm talking about after you took the car back, your father did send you some money.
He did not send me any money until April of 2004.
Well, that's what I'm talking. Listen a minute. After you took the car back, he sent you some money. April 2004 is after you took the car back.
Correct.
How much did he send you?
$1,300. Infrequent payments, about
I don't care if it's frequent payments, infrequent payments. So far, this is what your father has invested in this car. $2,500 in a down payment, $2,400 in payments that he made, and another $1,300 that he sent to you, according to your father, because he says you made a really bad deal when you traded in this car. And you did make a very bad deal. So let's see. So far, he invested $6,200 in this car, $6,200, which he had for 9 months, according to you, right?
Correct.
I don't know what you want. So you sold it for $2,500, you traded it in, and you bought a Honda for how much?
The total amount was $16,000 was the finance for the Honda.
And they gave you credit for $2,500 for your car for a trade-in?
Yes, Your Honor.
Well, that's a very bad trade-in, madam.
Cadillacs have a very low resale value.
Then you should have sold it privately. He's not responsible for that. Ms. Hayes, he's not responsible for that. You made a very bad deal with the dealership.
I made a very bad deal agreeing to help my father get this car.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. But he is not responsible for this bad deal that you made in trading in your car. I mean, it's unfortunate, but your father has paid $6,200 for a car that he had for 9 months, right? It was a very bad deal that you made. You still have the Honda?
It's been a great purchase to have that Honda.
All right, well,
it's been
you
more
had a
reliable
car.
than me than my father has
Well,
in my whole life.
You bought a car for $16,000. You bought a car for $16,000. If you couldn't afford it, you shouldn't have bought a car for $16,000 using this Cadillac as a trade-in. I don't even know what the book value is on a 1996 Cadillac, a 1997 Cadillac that you sold 2 years ago. Do you know what the book value is?
I do not, Your Honor.
Well, just for curiosity's sake, let's find out, Bert. I believe this was a 1996 Cadillac Sedan DeVille, and it was sold in 2004. Okay, can we find out?
Okay.
Thank you. Now, it's going to be hard to tell because the car was sold in 2004, but let's see what we can do.
Okay. Good condition would be $37.50. Private party good would be $51.25.
So private party good
Right.
would be $51.25, and that's 2 years after you sold it. You sold it 2 years ago. So let's say you add $1,000 for every year. So that's $7,000 that you should have gotten for the car, not $2,500. Should have gotten $7,000 for the car. At the time you traded it in for $2,500. That's not his fault. Okay, I'm sorry, Miss Hayes, your case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It was very difficult. It should have never come to this.
I love her. She doesn't speak to me anymore.
I'm struggling to pay my bills, and I'm paying off of his car right now.
Hopefully we can get our relationship back together soon.
That's not my concern right now. I'm worried about paying my rent and feeding myself every month.
I'll see what I can do for her because I'm kind of in the same situation.
He needs to make efforts to pay back his debt.
Still love her, and hopefully she'll call me Pops again soon.
Lisa Ray is suing her daughter's fiancé, 27-year-old Jeffrey Browning, for the balance on a vehicle he wrecked. Jeffrey says fixing the car is not his responsibility.
All rise. Sworn in, you may be seated.
Mrs. Ray, this is your daughter's boyfriend. Are they still together?
Yes, they are.
And this is your daughter?
Yes, she is.
Are they living together?
Yes, they are.
Are you on speaking terms with your daughter?
No, ma'am.
For how long?
It's been about 5 weeks since I've spoke with her.
Is it all over this car accident?
It's over the car accident and also over them getting back together and him not letting me see my granddaughter and turning her against me.
Tell me your name.
Wesley Hart.
According to your complaint, Miss Ray, Mr. Browning was driving your car and had an accident. There was a substantial amount of damage done to the car. From what I gather, you claim that Mr. Browning was supposed to purchase the car and had agreed to purchase the car and make the payments on the car at the time he was driving it. Mr. Browning says that there was never an agreement to purchase the car. It's sort of a convoluted defense. I haven't figured it out yet. Who has possession of the car?
The car is sitting in front of their house.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. She has a key.
Has it been fixed?
No, ma'am.
When was the accident?
July 14th.
You were driving.
Yes, ma'am.
Anybody else in the car?
No, ma'am.
What were you doing driving the car?
She had loaned it to us while my car was in the shop.
How long had you been driving it?
Approximately 2.5 weeks.
I loaned it to my daughter for her and my granddaughter to drive.
Okay. Leslie.
Yes, ma'am.
Prior to this incident with the car, were you on good terms with your mother?
Yes, ma'am.
You have a child with this man?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you ever break up with him?
We were separated.
Well, separated is a term that they use when they talk about marriage. You're not married to him. He's your boyfriend. So you broke up. And why did you break up?
We had gotten into a fight.
Where were you when you got into this fight?
We were in our home.
That you shared together, the two of you, with the baby?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you call the police?
No, I didn't. My mother did.
Did your mother call the police because of something that you told her?
No, ma'am. She had called the police because he was coming back from her house trying to see me and the baby.
Well, tell me about this.
We had gotten into a fight. I left and went to my mother's. We went shopping, went back to her house. He showed up, and my mom called the cops because he was coming onto her property. And the cops showed up, and she filed a criminal restraint for him not to trespass on her property. He went home, and later that night, me and her and my stepdad went back to my house to get my stuff, and the cops were then called again.
Why?
Because he had changed the locks and would not let me in the house to get my stuff.
And when did you get back together again?
About a week and a half later.
What was the fight about?
It was just over us not having the money for something, and I wanted to get something for the baby that we couldn't afford then. I got upset, and it was just very frustrating and stressful over the money issues.
Did he ever put his hands on you?
No, ma'am.
Did he?
The night we went back to the house to get the things, yes, he slammed her through the garage door out into the garage.
That's a lie, Your Honor.
It threw her. It threw her. She had gone into the garage. She remembered the combination, and she raised the garage door up, and he was hiding in the house. We didn't believe that he was there. And when she found out the locks were changed and got through the garage, she opened the inside garage door to go in the house, and she was halfway through that door. And he met her at that door, and he slammed it so hard that she flew out halfway into the garage.
That's a lie.
And he got into my face and was calling me all kinds of names, threatening. He told her, "Get out of here, I'm going to call the cops." And I said, "I'll beat you to it." And I picked up the phone and called.
Then they got back together again.
Unfortunately.
And then the person that you blame for all your trouble is your mother.
For our trouble, no. He blamed himself for it and went and got counseling. And
You mean in a day or two he got some counseling?
yes, the day I left him, the next day, he went to see somebody for his anger.
So he has an anger problem.
Yes.
Leslie, been in the business for a long time. How old are you?
I'm 20.
Your Honor.
How old? Shh. How old are you, Mr. Browning?
27.
How many children do you have?
1.
Miss Browning, raise your right hand. Tap him on the shoulder. I want you to look at him. Now look at me. 10 years from now, you're not going to remember what he looks like.
Okay.
That's always going to be your mother. Forever. That's always the home that you're going to be able to go to if you have trouble. That's always the place where your daughter, you have a daughter?
Yes, ma'am.
Where your daughter's going to be able to go if she needs something. Forever. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
52% of the marriages in this country terminate in divorce. You know what that says for the almost marrieds or just living togethers? You know what that says for the almost marrieds just living together who have had to call the police on the other side? You know what that says? That says in 10 years, you're not going to remember his face. Only if he is a good father and comes periodically to see his child, only then. But as far as waking up next to him, not going to happen. So if you're making a choice between someone who has to go to anger management classes when you're not even married, when you're supposed to be at the best time of your life together, and he's got to go to anger management classes because you say he's got anger management issues, that doesn't get any better. Leslie, do you think I'm a smart lady?
Yes, ma'am.
I want you to trust me on that. So if you cut your mother off, that's the height of stupidity. Because you ran home to your mother when you had a problem with him, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And you may have issues with your mother, because all girls have issues with their mothers. But that's who you ran to for your safe haven. If he's trying to cut you off from your mother, and for some reason you're not letting her see this baby, you don't want me to think you're dumb, do you?
No.
That would be the dumbest thing you could do.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Listen to me, sir. If what you are attempting to do is to drive a wedge between this young lady and her mother, that would be the height of stupidity.
And later today,
We heard a really loud popping sound. It was so loud I thought it was gunshot. My husband and I started running towards it. So I was like, why are we running towards this?
My question exactly.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Lisa Ray claims her daughter's fiancé, Jeffrey Browning, owes for payments on a vehicle he wrecked.
Now, Mr. Browning, I'm not going to waste any more time, sir. You were driving this car, you were alone. I don't care whose fault it is. When you make a mistake and have an accident with somebody else's property, you fix it, or you fix it to the best of your ability. Now, the best of your ability requires you to give Miss Ray $1,000, which is her insurance deductible. Period. End of discussion. Now, once she has the car fixed, it's never going to be the same again. That's too bad, because that's one of the risks that you take. Put your hand down. That's one of the risks that you take when you lend your property. That your daughter, who has acted irresponsibly in the past, because certainly she's 20 years old, and how old is this child that she has?
She's 4.5 months.
4.5
I haven't
months?
seen her in 5 weeks.
Well, maybe your daughter will change that now. Maybe
Your Honor,
she'll
there-
listen.
There's
What?
There's several reasons that we will not let her see our daughter. This is coming from a woman who wished a miscarriage at about 6 months of the pregnancy.
Not true.
This is coming from a woman who told me to question the paternity of my child. I have this all documented.
Listen to me, sir. If what you are attempting to do is to drive a wedge between this young lady and her mother, that would be the height of stupidity.
No, ma'am, I told her that she needs to work on the relationship.
Very good. And I just want you to recognize that when you and Leslie had a fight, she ran home to her mother. And when she wanted to come to the house to get some of her property, she brought her mother. You owe her $1,000. Shh, quiet. Listen to me. He's not paying off your car.
The car was my daughter's car to begin with, and she paid on it for 3 years and then brought it back and dumped it on me when he bought her a Jeep Grand Cherokee. He bought her that so he could take it away from her every time he got angry with her.
That's her problem. She's 20 years old. You now have your deductible. You are whole. Period. End of discussion. That's all. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It's hard that I don't see my granddaughter. I can't make her choices for her. She's going to have to fall on her own.
She hates the fact that I refused to let her see my daughter because when I was staying with her, she would not let him see her. She was controlling me.
He's a liar, a manipulator.
I don't let her mother manipulate things.
She's just mad that I moved back home with him, that we're getting married.
I hope my daughter wakes up before she marries him this weekend.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Do you know how many behinds you have?
I have 2. 2 behind, yeah.
No, 2 cheeks, 1 behind. And how many behinds do you think can fit on 1 motorcycle?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Judge Judy continues in a moment. Want justice? Go to judgejudy.com or call 1-888-800-JUDY.
Lights and everything else in her house, and I can't have any of it.
Well, I thought it went great, and he got what he needed.
Christine Daly is suing the father of her child, Henry Geib, for rent, truck payments, and damage to their apartment. Christine claims Henry has an anger problem.
Come to order, all rise. That's case number 150 on the calendar in the matter of Daly versus Geib. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Miss Daly, you and the defendant lived together for a period of time and you have a child together. It is your claim that while you were living together, you covered the expenses for both of you while Mr. Geib was not working or not contributing to the household. You want him to cover those expenses.
Yes.
And in addition, you say that because of his bad temper, he punched holes in the walls of the apartment so that you're going to be charged for that. Now, Mr. Geib says that there was never a loan. You 2 people lived together. You covered expenses when he wasn't working. And as far as the holes in the walls, Mr. Geib acknowledges that he made them.
Yes.
He says that he has an anger problem and that you know how to push his buttons so he hit the wall instead of hitting you. For that, he should be praised. Right? When did you move in together, Mr. Geib?
I believe it was December of last year.
2005?
Yes.
2004, December 2004.
And you lived together until when?
Till April of this year.
And when did Mr. Geib lose his job or become unemployed?
Well, several months after he moved in early 2005, he
Did
lost
he move
his
into
job.
your apartment?
Actually, yes. I was renting a house at the time.
Who were you living there with before he moved in with you?
Myself.
Just yourself?
Yes.
And the lease was in your name?
Yes.
What was your financial arrangement with him?
Well, of course, you know, he's an able-bodied person, and we were going to split the rent.
Is that what you discussed?
Yes.
Did he pay half in December 2004?
Yes.
January 2005?
Yes.
February 2005?
Yes.
March 2005?
Yes.
April 2005?
Yes.
May?
Yes.
June?
Yes.
July?
No.
Okay. July 2005, he stopped paying his half.
Right.
Because he lost his...
He quit his job.
Why did you quit your job, Mr. Geib?
Well, I didn't quit my job. I kind of, what happened was one guy got blamed of stealing some equipment, and they said it was me. And I told them, no, it wasn't me. So they didn't believe me, so they fired me anyway.
Did you collect unemployment?
No, I didn't.
Well, how'd you support yourself?
just doing like side jobs. I do construction on the side just for cash money.
What do you mean for cash money? What does that
Like under kind of not taxed or anything like that. So.
Well, but what did you do with the money when you worked? Did you give
Gave
it
it
to
to
Miss
her.
Daly?
I gave it to her, yeah.
And that was in July?
Yeah. I gave her all my money, everything.
Well, good. And what about in August? Did he pay you in August?
Yes.
September?
Yes.
October?
Mm-hmm.
November?
Mm-hmm.
December?
No.
Did he pay you in January
No.
of 06? February of 06?
No.
Why don't you throw him out?
Well, because he was the father of my son, and the thing is that he was needing help. I thought I'd help him out because he had a lot of issues.
He certainly has issues.
Psychological issues or something, and I thought if I helped him, he'd turn things around and we could be a family together.
Well, he didn't.
Well, he kept promising me that he'd turn things around and he'd take these courses, and so I kept...
You mean anger courses?
Not just anger courses, other courses, couples therapy, we tried that. We also went to a couple of different mental hospitals to get him some pills to make his anger
You
more
working now,
controlled.
Mr. Gaib?
I'm in between jobs.
How are you supporting yourself?
I'm helping a lady finish her house construction.
Where are you living?
Linwood.
With whom?
Her and her son.
With a lady?
Yeah.
Mr. Gaib, I want you to tell me, sir, about the holes that you punched in the walls of Miss Daly's house.
Basically, every day I'd come home from work or wherever, Christina, she would just follow me with all these complaints, you know. We'd have our sit-down time for a couple minutes, you know, but then she would just follow me, complaining about everything, you know, and I just, okay, I told her I would try to help. I'd try to fix it. Then, I don't know, I just started losing my temper after a while, and then I would try to go to another room. She would follow me there, and it got to a point where I just kind of lost my temper a few times.
Do you have an estimate for the damage to the house?
Yes, I do.
Can I see it, please?
Do you want to see photos or just estimates?
Sure.
Okay, here's the photos.
Did you knock down a couple of doors, sir?
No.
What were the doors?
The person that gave me an estimate said the holes are pretty big and it'd be better if he replaced the doors instead of patch them up because he said it wouldn't look right. They're huge holes. They're like about this big.
You mean in the doors?
Yeah.
Did you break a mirror in the closet?
No, she said I did. She's lying. No, I didn't.
When did he break
I'm
the mirror
positive
in
of
the
that.
closet?
He got mad and he took it by his hands and went like this and shook it and it cracked it into the...
All right.
How many times?
Mr. Gaib, first of all, I agree with your defense, sir, that you don't owe her any money for expenses when you were living there. If she chose to allow you to continue to remain in the house while you were unemployed and she thought that you would get your life together, she did so because you were a couple and she thought that you were building a life together. That's not something that creates a lawsuit. However, you are responsible for the damage that you did to the apartment when you were in these rages because you don't get a medal for hitting the walls instead of hitting her. You understand that?
Yes.
And you think that that's reasonable, right?
Somewhat.
Well, I think it's reasonable. But there's a larger issue, Mr. Gaib. Are you currently in therapy?
No, I'm not.
You understand that you probably need therapy.
Yes.
Is there any reason why you are not in treatment? Is it because you can't afford it?
No, it's free. I just, I missed my last appointment and I never rescheduled.
Were you at any time on medication?
Yes,
When did you go off your medication?
when I ran out.
When did you
About
run?
a month ago.
A month ago.
He quit taking them.
How long had you been on the same medication, Mr. Gaib?
About 4 months.
You were working with a therapist?
Yes.
Was the medication helping you?
Yes.
Do you remember what kind it was?
Prozac.
When you ran out, why didn't you go back to the therapist, Mr. Gaib?
I don't know. I don't know.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You need to see a therapist and get back on that medication. You have to do it, Mr. Gaib. It's not fair to you, and it's not fair for the children that you brought into the world. Please?
And later today,
Where is he?
I don't know. He's hanging out somewhere around.
Well, what'd you bring him for?
Going to L.A. with the guy that's going to hang out.
There are days I like this job better than others.
Christine Daly claims the father of her child, Henry Gaib, owes for household bills and repair costs resulting from his anger problem.
Okay. How old are you?
37.
You have any family here?
My dad and aunt and uncle.
Do you have a relationship with your father?
Not really.
Aunt and uncle?
No.
I'm telling you, someone who's, been around the block a little bit. You need to see a therapist and get back on that medication. Made you feel better? You have one child?
Two.
Two. You owe them the ability to interact with them peacefully. You have to feel comfortable yourself. You have to feel as if you have a certain center in your life so that you can work, you know, not have fights with people at your jobs. And if that means that you have to be in therapy where it's free and you can get this medication, which is also available to you, you have to do it, Ms. Dungy. It's not fair to you. And it's not fair for the children that you brought into the world. Please? In the meantime, you have to pay for the holes in the wall, $745. That's all. Thank you.
There's a truck payment involved. He hasn't paid for his truck. I co-signed for his truck. I paid over $2,000 in truck payments.
That may be. And what you have to do is you have to have the truck repossessed.
He won't give it back to me. I tried twice.
You have a bank loan?
Yes, but that'll ruin my credit. They said that if it was voluntary repossession, it would ruin my credit.
That may be. I can't help you with that because in order to cover the shortfall in the payments, you have to have the truck repossessed and sell it.
But that'll ruin my credit, though.
Well, I can't help that, madam. Then you have to think about that before you co-sign for a truck for him. You're a grown-up girl.
I know, but he wrote me a promissory note, which he stole back from me, saying that I wouldn't have to make any payments.
What you have to do is notify the lending company to repossess the truck because you will no longer be making payments. And I would do that as quickly as possible before the debt becomes greater, because the quicker they repossess the truck and the quicker they sell it, the less money you will owe.
So I'm being stiffed for rent and truck payments and everything else?
No, you're not being stiffed for the rent.
I am, because no one's paying for this.
He's paying for the damage that he did.
That's nothing compared to what I paid for rent and the truck payments.
Are you living in the same house?
Not anymore.
You're not living in the house anymore?
What happened was we moved out together at a second residence. He moved in December. We moved into the new place in July. He got under the lease with me in the new apartment, and that's when he started to not work and he didn't pay me.
Yeah, she changed the locks on Easter on me too.
Well, he
illegally.
was a domestic violence. He hit me, and I called the police out, and they had to come and get him, and he ran away. And the social services stepped in and said that if I let him back in the house, how am I supposed to protect my son from him?
You're absolutely right.
I had to let him know that he couldn't come back.
Right.
But you know what it is? When you trust someone and you love someone and he promises to pay you, I mean, isn't that what a relationship's all about, where you're supposed to hopefully believe that the person's going to come through every time they promise you something?
If you let him go and let him go and let him go and he doesn't pay, and you let it go and you let it go because you're hoping things are going to turn around, there comes a point where he doesn't believe and has no sense of his responsibility. And what you did was, according to your complaint, you said to him, we'll straighten out when you get your act together. He's never going to get his act together unless he gets back on therapy and back on his medication. Do you understand? It's not going to happen. So unfortunately, your credit may be ruined, but you have to notify the lending company to repossess the truck. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $745. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Which way do we go?
He owes me money. He's not paying child support. I don't see why he should be able to come see his son.
She can't say that. That's my son, you know?
He punched holes in the walls, and watching someone do that on a daily basis, you don't think that's abuse?
She's trying to change me. She's trying to mold me.
It's not like I'm telling him he needs to change. He was needing help because he had problems, issues, of course.
She's psycho.
He's done enough damage to last quite a long time.
We'd start arguing. I would try to walk away into a different room, but she would follow me right behind me, just like a little bird or something.
He's ruining my life as we speak.
Is she gonna put a hit on me or what? I mean, I don't know.
Janet Nuck is suing her niece, 25-year-old Danielle DiGiovanni, for an unpaid loan to get back on her feet after Hurricane Katrina. Danielle claims her aunt gave her the money.
Yeah, this is case number 219 on the calendar in the matter of Knock versus DiGiovanni.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated, ma'am. Have a seat.
Ms. Knock, the defendant is your niece?
Yes.
Is that your sister's child or your brother's?
Yes, my sister-in-law's child, my husband's sister's child.
Husband's sister's daughter?
Yes.
And it is your claim that you made a loan to her after Hurricane Katrina. She was a victim of Hurricane Katrina.
That's right.
And you loaned her $3,000.
No, I loaned her $5,000. But the maximum that I could sue for in the courts in the New Orleans area is $3,500.
So the loan was for $5,000?
The loan was for $5,000 originally.
And the defendant says you never made a loan to her. She received the money from you. It was a very generous gift. So I have a couple of questions for you. The money that you gave to her was money that you took out of savings?
No, I had to actually make a loan.
You took out a loan?
Yes.
To give her the money?
Yes.
From where did you take out the loan?
Originally, it was from my bank, and then I had it transferred to a credit card because for the first 6 months it would be 0% interest.
So you are paying that back?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Do you work?
Yes, I do.
What kind of work do you do?
I work in a nursery as a horticulturist and gardening consultant.
How many people live in your household?
My husband, myself, my 2 sons.
How old are your sons?
One is 20 and one is 22.
Do they work, go to school? What do they do?
My youngest son is trying to prepare for college.
So he's preparing?
He's preparing right now. We have to get money together and everything for that.
And your oldest son?
My oldest son is working.
Your husband?
My husband works.
What kind of work does he do?
He has a degree in broadcast journalism, but he's working at a trucking company.
Okay, so you're a hard-working family.
Yes, we are.
Do you own your own home?
Yes, we do.
Have
It's
a
still
mortgage?
not paid for.
And what about you, Miss Giovanni? How old are you?
I'm 25.
What do you do?
I am a sales rep for a jewelry store in New Orleans as of 2 weeks ago.
And before that?
Before that, I was very ill throughout the beginning of the year. I did not hold a job because I was in and out of the hospital.
What was wrong with you?
I was raped in January. In February, I was diagnosed with cervical cancer. Through my treatment, I got bit by a brown recluse spider. I was hospitalized for 2 weeks, so I was on medication for most of the year, so I was unable to get a job.
Prior to that, where were you working?
I was a manager at Sweet Fire and Ice, which is a Copeland's establishment that's really popular in New Orleans. I've been with them for 3 years.
Okay. Now, Ms. Knock, would you tell me about the circumstances surrounding this, according to you, loan?
We had altogether around 13 people in our house at one time after Katrina, and also their dogs, which should amounted to...
Your Honor.
Shh, don't interrupt her. Don't interrupt her.
Okay.
Don't read. Just tell me.
Oh, okay.
You had 13 people, family members.
Plus their dogs, like 7 dogs.
And these 13 family members, they were your husband's family members.
Yes.
They came to your home right after Katrina?
Right.
With their assorted pets, etc.
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead.
But it was a little rough for a while. Danielle told me that she was going to be staying in the Atlanta area anyway because this restaurant that she was working for was opening up a new branch. So she had to find a place to live with her fiance and her little girl who was about 2 years old at the time. And she said she had
Who was
lost...
also staying with you off and on?
Off and on, yes, and I babysat her a lot also.
Okay.
And they ended up renting a house in the Atlanta area. She said that she was maxed out with cash and she was waiting for her FEMA check to come in. But she asked in the meantime if I could make her a loan of $5,000 and that she would pay me back as soon as she got her FEMA check.
Okay, and that was the loan.
And that was the loan, yes.
When did you give her the money?
It was on the 23rd of November. When I got the loan, I had that transferred into my account, and then I had $5,000 transferred into her account from my account. And I had to write a physical check for that, and I have that here.
I don't think that there's any issue as to whether or not you turned the money over to her. And she hasn't paid you any money back?
No, she...
Okay. Did you, Miss Giovanni, get a FEMA check?
No, ma'am, I have not received any money from FEMA.
Did your fiancé get a FEMA check?
Yes, ma'am, he did.
For how much?
I'm not exactly sure. We're no longer together.
When you were together, however, he got the FEMA check.
He got $2,000 prior to her dispersing the money into my account, Your Honor. We got there in September. When we first evacuated, we went to Texas for 3 weeks with my family.
Let me explain something to you.
Okay.
I'm not interested in your story, quite frankly. I'm interested in you telling me about your defense, which is this money was a gift. So I'd like to hear how the money came about.
The money came about because I was leaving to come back 3 days after Halloween. We came back to Louisiana. My aunt and I still kept in touch. She dispersed the money to me on November 23rd.
Well, explain it to me. How did that happen?
She said that she would help me. She knew that me and my mother did not get along, and she said that, you know, I know you don't want to stay with your mother. She said, well, I'll help you out. My cousin Anna, she went ahead and got a loan for her because her car was broken for $10,000.
Your cousin?
Anna.
Who was that?
This lady sitting right over here.
Who cares?
I'm just telling you that $10,000 that she received from Anna, she said, I have an extra $5,000. I will put it into your account and I will go ahead and help you get back up on your feet. I never once told her that when I received the FEMA check that I would be paying her back.
Why not?
It's not that. It was not discussed on whether if I should pay it back or anything like that.
Well, why would somebody who works very hard, who has 2 children, one of whom can't go to college because they haven't put the money together, give you $5,000 that they
Your
didn't
Honor,
expect to be paid
if
back?
they were trying to get him in college, wouldn't they have used that money to get him in college instead of helping me out? I'm sorry, that's
what you think.
But I wasn't living with her. I did not stay with her, Your Honor. I stayed there one night. I was there a week.
What difference does that make, Ms. DiGiovanni?
The difference makes, Your Honor, is that she was harassing my family and telling my family that she gave me the money and then I spent it on a breast augmentation.
Well, just a minute.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You have a piece of paper that says what?
That he paid for it as a
I don't care if he paid for it. Didn't you hear what I just said to you?
Yes, I understand what you're saying. But
no, you don't. Not if you keep talking.
And later today,
when I first introduced Sarah to my wife, Sarah and my wife got into it. Sarah went after my wife, and my wife invited her to be in the wedding even after that.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Janet Knox says her niece, Danielle DiGiovanni, owes for a loan to get back on her feet. Janet claims instead of paying her back, Danielle got breast implants.
After you got the $5,000 from her, did you have a breast augmentation?
I did, but I didn't pay for it. And I have proof for that.
I don't care who paid for it. I don't care who paid for it. You're talking about prioritizing. You mean some friend of yours paid for it?
No,
I assume,
it was
listen to me. I assume a male friend?
It was my boyfriend, yes, ma'am.
Well, your boyfriend. So if you have a brain in your head, you say to your boyfriend, listen, I don't need bigger breasts. I have to take care of my responsibilities. If you got an extra $5,000, and if you care about me, you'll repay my aunt, who was generous enough to help me when I needed it, and I'll get bigger breasts when I have more money.
Your Honor, it was a gift.
No, it wasn't a gift.
It was a gift. I have a piece of paper.
Listen to me. You have a piece of paper that says what?
That he paid for it as a gift.
I don't care if he paid for it. Didn't you hear what I just said to you?
Yes, I understand what you're saying. But
no, you don't.
No,
Not
I
if you
do.
keep talking. If you have a boyfriend who has a brain and a soul and a sense of moral decency, and if you have a brain and a sense of moral decency, you say, if you've got an extra try to open up your ears. You want to talk. Open
I
up
do.
your
I'm
listening ears.
listening.
You say to your boyfriend, sweetheart, I like my body the way it is. You like bigger-breasted women? You'll have to wait a little while, but if you've got an extra $5,000, I want to pay back my aunt.
It wasn't for him to pay back, Your Honor.
Listen, you're not paying attention to what I'm saying. I certainly wouldn't have spent $5,000 on myself when somebody else had given me, because I was in a state of dire emergency, taken out a loan that she is currently paying back. This wasn't extra money. This is money she's paying back every month. And instead of her paying it back every month, you should pay it back every month. Certainly don't go in and get bigger breasts while somebody is sitting there paying back money that they gave to you during the course of an emergency. And I don't care if she's harassing you and your family, because quite frankly, you deserve to be harassed. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,500. That's
Thank you so much, Your Honor.
How does I choose and then step out?
For lying.
How can I give the money if I don't work?
When I found out from her grandmother that she had a breast augmentation,
I don't understand. If I'm going to pull the money out
I was shocked.
I became ill after my breast augmentation.
She had to have that done for her self-esteem.
I'm sure there'll be bad blood.
I really don't want to have anything to do with him anymore.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Harmon versus Tolan, step forward.
18-year-old Christina Harmon is suing her father, William Tolan, for an unpaid loan. William claims Christina broke the terms of their agreement.
Ms. Harmon, this is your father?
Yes.
According to what I read in the complaint, you made a loan to him.
Yes, I did.
Your father does not deny that you made a loan to him. He says, however, that as a condition of his repaying the loan, you agreed to stay in school and stay off of drugs. And he says that you didn't. So he's not repaying the loan unless he can put it in some sort of an account where you can't touch it until you're 21. There's a little bit of background here. Background, according to you, is that you didn't have much of a relationship with your dad for most of your growing up. You lived with your mother. Your father at some point was incarcerated for an extended period of time. He got out of jail. You developed a relationship with him, moved in with him for a short period of time. You got a settlement of some sort from an accident?
Yes.
How much was the settlement?
It was for $8,960 or $76.
$9,000?
Yes.
And it was at that time that he asked you for the loan?
Yes.
When was that, Miss Harmon?
He asked me for it November 28th of 2005.
Were you living in the house with him at
Yes,
that
I
time?
was.
What did he say he wanted the money for?
He wanted $2,350 to buy a new car and $600 to go see my stepmother's oldest daughter in Medford, Oregon.
That's not true. I never borrowed $600 for a trip from her.
Well, how much did you borrow in total from her?
$2,150. The vehicle was actually so Christina had a car. She had the money to do driver safety. We'd already set it up.
Just
with
a second,
school.
Mr. Tolan. How much did you take out of your account and give to him?
I took out $2,900 out of my account. I wrote a check to my bank.
Let me see.
It's this one right here.
It says $2,900, sir.
That's not what she gave me. She gave me $2,100, and my wife can attest
In a
to
check
that.
or cash?
Cash.
Okay. Let's say I believe you.
Okay.
Did he also give you a car?
No, he was going to give me the car, but then he decided not to, and he was going to sell it to my cousin once he got his taxes back.
Just a second. Did you ever have possession of that car?
No, I did not.
And title in your name?
No, I did not.
Okay.
That's not true, Your Honor.
She had title in her name?
She didn't have title in her name
Then
because
she didn't get.
she
didn't
had
have
the
truck.
keys to the vehicle. They were
I don't
given
care
to
if
her
she had,
when she got it.
Listen to me. I don't care if
Okay.
she had keys to the vehicle. It's not her car. Where's the car now?
The car's in Salem right now
With whom?
with a friend of mine.
That's not her car.
No, it's not now because she didn't hold up her part of the bargain.
Listen to me. When you asked your daughter for money, what were the conditions?
The conditions were that she stay in school.
No,
and not
you're
do
asking
drugs.
for money. You're the borrower. You don't set the conditions of the return of the money, Mr. Tolan. Yeah, I don't think you understand. You say, I'd like to borrow $2,100 because I want money to buy a car. And I will pay you back if you stay in school and if you don't do drugs. If I were your daughter, I'd say, take a walk. What kind of ridiculousness is that? I'm doing you a favor by loaning you $2,100 and you're going to set the conditions on repaying me? That sounds stupid. Doesn't that sound stupid to you? Does it sound stupid to you?
It sounds very stupid to me if that was the story, but she came to me asking for the vehicle. And I told her I would give her the vehicle on conditions because I was trying to teach her to be responsible.
I'm not talking about the vehicle. I'm talking about the $2,100 for your car.
I understand that. I'm talking about my daughter's life. I'm passionate about drug and
Listen,
alcohol
I'm
use,
passionate about the
and
truth.
I'm not going to let her
Listen
die.
to me.
So you'd give her $2,100 to go kill herself with?
Mr. Tolan, listen to me. I've had 5 children that I raised.
I understand that.
And I guarantee you, sir, I have not been in prison. And I guarantee you that I've been in my children's lives from the time that they took a breath. Okay? So I can guarantee you that I'm as passionate about my children's welfare as you.
Okay.
So what I'm saying to you is it doesn't make sense for you to say to anyone, including your daughter, can I borrow some money, but I'm only going to pay you back if you do this. If you get a job, if you stay in school, if you break up with this boy, if you stop hanging out with this person. Otherwise, I'm not going to borrow the money from you.
Okay, let's put it this way.
No, don't. I don't answer your questions.
Okay.
I don't answer your questions. What you're saying to me sounds stupid. And if it sounds stupid, it's not true. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,900, because that's what you took. That's all.
Fine. Parties are excused. You may step out.
I am glad that I got the money back, and I feel bad that I lent it to my father.
Basically, I think Judge Judy just signified to me that life is what the hokey pokey's all about because she just gave my daughter the license to go kill herself.
He told me that he wanted to have a relationship with me.
I'm a drug counselor. My wife is a drug counselor, and my daughter's a drug addict.
Yes, I used to do drugs, but I've been clean since June of last year.
My life previously was in and out of prison and doing drugs.
I'm his wife, and I tried to be a mother to her, brought her around my 12-year-old. She lied to my 12-year-old about being pregnant, wasn't pregnant.
Today, I'm helping people.
She slept around and everything. She was just awful.
I don't have a relationship with my daughter. She chose to leave.
I really don't know if I'm going to have a relationship after he's done this to me.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Johnson versus Scott. Step forward.
Stacy Johnson is suing the mother of her daughter's boyfriend, Stacy Scott, for the cost to fix her 2005 Chevy Cobalt The plaintiff claims Stacy's son drove the car without permission and wrecked it.
Miss Johnson, this is your daughter, and Miss Scott, this is your son. According to what I've read, your daughter was dating the defendant's son. You let her use the family car?
Yes.
Because they were going out. They went out. After they were finished with their date or whatever they were doing that evening, your daughter let the defendant's son drive your car. He had an accident and the car was damaged. You want Miss Scott to pay for it.
Correct.
That's what the case is about. How old are you?
16.
How old are you?
16.
Who's older? Raise your hand. What kind of a driver's license do you have? Or did you have at the time of this accident?
What do you mean?
Did you have a permit? Did you have a full license? What kind of driver's license did you have?
I had my license, but my 3 months weren't all the way up yet.
What does that mean, Tristan?
That I wasn't supposed to have anyone else in the car.
Unless it's an adult.
Right.
If you had an adult in the car, you could drive. Yes?
Yes.
And when was your probationary period up?
I'm not exactly sure. I don't remember the day exactly.
Well, let's try to remember. When did you get your license?
Do you know when it was?
November.
November, I think.
When did this accident happen?
In November.
No, I think you got your. I think she got her birthday's in June, and you had to wait 30 days, and I believe she got her license probably 45 days after her birthday. And then there was a 3-month period she could drive with an adult or by herself, but she couldn't have anybody in the car under 21.
Okay. And this accident happened during that period of time,
Yes.
when she was on probationary period.
Right.
And you let her take the car during this probationary period.
Yes.
And you let her take the car, according to you, knowing that she was picking up the boyfriend.
Yes.
And they were going to the mall, bowling or something?
Yes.
Why did you do that, Miss Johnson?
Bad decision.
Put your hand down. Very bad decision.
Yes, it was.
You allowed your daughter to do something that was against the law.
Yes.
Now, where did you go that evening?
Went to the mall, and we went to Dairy Queen, and we was on our way to the bowling alley.
Could you speak up, please?
To the mall, then we went to Dairy Queen, then we was on our way to the bowling alley.
What were you doing driving the car? Because you have no license.
And we left the mall, and she wasn't feeling well, so
What was wrong with her?
I guess she had a headache.
You have a headache that night?
Yes.
So did you say to her, I don't have a driver's license?
No, ma'am.
And what happened?
When we got on...
Could you keep your voice up? Why do I have to strain to hear you?
We was driving on 7th Street.
No, we weren't driving. You were driving.
Yeah, well, I was driving on 7th Street, and then there's some cars parked in the no parking zone, and I hit one of them.
You didn't hit it because it was parked in the no parking zone, right?
No, ma'am.
Wasn't the car's fault.
No.
It was your fault.
Yes.
Right. How much damage was done to the car?
$4,000. I have pictures.
I'll look at the pictures. Ooh, nasty. Now, Miss Scott, were you home when your son went out that evening?
Yes.
She picked him up in the car?
Yes. She had done that on numerous occasions before.
Did you give your son permission to drive the car?
Absolutely not.
At the time that she picked him up, did you know she was on probation?
No.
You did not know that?
No, I did not know till the night this happened.
The night that this happened, you got a call from the police that there had been an accident?
No, I got a call from my son immediately after it happened to get to the scene because they had had a bad accident.
Now, Miss John, what?
That's not quite true. She did not pick him up. They met at the mall, and they were having dinner at the mall and going to the bowling alley, and she was to drop him off.
Is that what happened?
Yes.
So you met at the mall?
Yes.
Who took you to the mall?
My grandfather.
Now, Miss Johnson, who do you think is responsible for paying for the damage to your car?
Brandon's parents.
Wrong. You are.
Why is that?
Because the only adult who had the information that your daughter was not permitted to drive with anyone else in the car, that teenagers have generally bad judgment, so the state says, we're not going to give them the ability to hurt somebody because they're still a little young, so they're going to have to demonstrate to us with a probationary period that they're responsible enough. The only one that had that information, the only adult, was you. Miss Scott didn't have that information.
I'm not sure I believe that.
I don't care what you believe. The only thing I know for certain is that you permitted your daughter, in violation of the law, to take a car knowing that she was going to take an underage person at some point in the car. You knew that. His mother didn't know that. Who is this?
Brandon's
Father, Ron.
You didn't know that,
No, I did.
but you knew that. And I'll tell you something else, Miss Johnson. What's your first name?
Brandon.
If Brandon was seriously injured in this car accident, you would be responsible for his injuries. Forget the car. The Scott family would own your home. Being a parent requires you to be a parent, not a friend. And if your daughter wanted to go to the mall and pick up her boyfriend and be with her boyfriend and then drop him off home, your responsibility as a parent is to take her there and pick her up and to drop the boyfriend home. And if she says, oh, come on, but it's just a minute, you're supposed to be a parent and say, no, that's against the law. So you allowed her to break the law. So what's the big deal if she says, listen, he doesn't have a driver's license, so what's the big deal? My mother allowed me to break the law. I'll break the law by letting him drive. That's what she learned from you that day, and probably on other dates as well. So I have absolutely no sympathy with you. Pay for the car yourself. Your case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It's a responsibility on both of our parts.
It was a fair decision. I made a bad mistake.
But we both have good children.
Shouldn't have been driving with someone who didn't have a license.
But they've learned from the mistake.
Wait till I get my license and learn from it.
I guess I go behind her back. I know I'm not supposed to.
She's 16. She'll figure it out one of these days.
Shatanya Bentley is suing her sister, Kelvis Bentley, for moving costs.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2106, Bentley versus Bentley.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome.
Miss Bentley, this is your sister.
Yes.
The case is relatively simple. Your mom passed away a couple of years ago. There was a house full of furniture that belonged to your mother. According to what I've read, and this is broad strokes, according to what I read, your sister, what's your first name?
Kelvis.
Put your mother's property in a storage unit.
Excuse me, it was already in storage.
Who had put it into storage?
My mom put it in storage. My mom was terminally ill, and she put it in storage 3 months before she passed away.
Is that correct?
Yes.
On what date did your mom pass?
November the 8th, 2018.
So it would have been in storage since August of 2018.
Correct.
From August till November, who paid for the storage unit?
I have been paying it.
And how much is it every month?
Right now it's $209, but it was $182 in the beginning.
But about $200 a month, and it's been 3 years.
Yes, I've been paying that every month.
This is what your case is about. You say that you gave your sister $900 for the purpose of traveling, getting your mother's things out of storage so that you could all disperse your mother's property.
Yes, but the amount is incorrect.
What's the amount?
I gave her $800.
Okay, $800.
Yes.
In order to get your mother's furniture to where you live, so that you could separate the furniture and the family could take what they wanted or needed of the property, correct?
That's correct.
Good. Then COVID struck, your sister didn't use that money to travel, to hire truckers, to move the furniture, and you want that money back.
Yes, that's correct.
That's the whole case. Okay. Just for my own information, you do expect when that furniture arrives to be one of the beneficiaries of that furniture. That's what your sister says. She says that that's the plan once it all comes back.
That's not correct. I didn't want anything out of the storage but pictures.
Pictures?
Yeah.
Well, pictures of things.
Yes, that's it.
Pictures of what?
There's a picture of me and my mother. That's all I wanted.
Did you tell that to your sister?
Yes, I did.
Did she?
No.
How many sisters are there?
It's only 2 of us now. It was 4, 2 deceased.
Did your mother have any other property?
My mother has a whole 2-bedroom home in the storage. She has furniture, everything.
Other than furniture?
No. Clothes, pictures, yes, things like that, yes.
Is there any property in that storage unit that you want?
Well, I'm holding her stuff because it's sentimental. I mean, I can get it, I wouldn't mind having it, but it's really, she got a lot of sentimental stuff in there, so that's why I've been paying.
Furniture?
Yes, furniture, clothes.
Furniture?
Pictures, everything,
Okay.
Yes.
How far away is the storage unit from where you live?
It's in Charlotte, North Carolina.
How far away?
10-hour drive. We stay in Michigan, and the storage is in North Carolina, Charlotte.
Anybody that you know live there close to the storage unit?
My aunt and my cousin does.
And this picture that you want, do you know where it is?
It's in the photo album with the rest of the pictures.
And other than that one picture in a photo album, you don't want anything else, any of the other property?
No.
You two are the heirs, is that right?
We have a brother.
Does he have, as far as you know, any interest in any of your mother's property?
No. When my mom passed, it was me, my niece, and my older brother there at the time of death. And so he got everything he wanted out, and he gave me the key because I was the next to older one because she wasn't there. So he was like, so y'all do what y'all want to do with it. And so that's when I told her, I'll pay it until we go get it.
You said, I'll pay for the storage unit until we go and get it.
Yes.
Okay, now I'd like you to tell me about this money that she gave you. Do you remember when she gave you the $800?
She gave me the money, I want to say May of 2020.
And can you tell me what the conversation was when she gave you the money?
Here is some money to go towards going to get the things, you know. And so I told her, well, I'll find a way to go get it. I didn't never give her a designated time, but during that time, that was COVID, so no one was able to go. And so I was gonna go this year because I just signed the papers to go and go get the stuff, but no one still was able to go. She never once said that this was money loaned to go get it.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, she had designated it to go and get the property.
Yes.
And you didn't use it to go and get the property.
I used it towards the storage.
No.
I'm sorry, go ahead, no.
The answer is no.
No.
So that's what her complaint is, that it wasn't used for its intended purpose, which was to go rent a truck, movers, and bring the property to where you both live. Okay, and she did give you $800.
Yes.
Okay, and Ms. Bentley, you're prepared to sign a document that indicates that the only property you want from storage is a photograph of you and your mother that's in a photo album.
Yes.
That you want nothing else, that everything else belongs to either your sister or any other heirs that have a legitimate claim on any of that property, but you want nothing else.
That's fine.
Reasonable?
Fine.
Perfect. I'm entering a judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $800 with the proviso that the plaintiff will, in fact, sign that document indicating she wants nothing but one photograph from the storage unit.
I gave her $150 back.
Did she give you $150 back?
She did give me $150 back.
You paid her back. So she goes, you're $650. Judgment for the plaintiff, $650. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
It was my mother's stuff. I just was trying to get the stuff. It was in storage for long enough.
We haven't talked in a whole year.
We're not close.
You know, all she wanted is a picture. I give her a picture.
At least I got what I wanted.
We still sisters, still love her.
Those look like two nice sisters. And I think part of that problem is the intervention of COVID, which really turned everybody's life upside down.
Especially family units.
Family units, because I think that was the intention, that she was going to pay for it to all be brought up, use that money, and then they would go through the property and decide who wanted what and what would be disposed of. It's not an egregious case of misappropriation of funds.
All well-intentioned, I think.
Well-intentioned. I thought it was a sweet case.
Herman and Tina Smoody are suing their former son-in-law, Dalton McDonald, for unpaid loans.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2082, Smoody versus McDonald.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. and Mrs. Smoody, the defendant used to be married to your daughter.
Yes, Your Honor.
And according to what I've read, they were married for about 5 years?
Yes.
The thrust of your claim is that he owes for a couple of things, for rent and the balance of a truck. That's your lawsuit against him. I'd like to know, do you know the date of their marriage?
3/16/2011.
And your ex-wife's first name?
Jacqueline.
And when did you and your former wife separate?
In 2020.
And you had 2 children. How old are they now?
They are 5 and 8.
And who has custody of the children?
Dalton has physical, and they have joint custody.
Just a second. So he has custody of the 2 younger children?
Yes.
That's a yes. How long have you had custody of the 2 children?
Since July of last year.
At some point during the marriage, there was a truck purchased.
Yes.
Who purchased the truck?
Dalton purchased the truck. I co-signed for it.
And when was it purchased? Month and year?
June of 2017.
Was that the only car that they had?
Yes.
So that was a family car?
Yes.
And in 2017, was your daughter working?
Yes.
So both parents worked. And both parents, I assume, pooled their money and I assume made car payments.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes. Is that correct? Both. And then they separated in 2020, and at that time, the children came to live with you.
Correct.
And you took the truck.
Yes.
By agreement with your now ex-wife.
Yes.
In 2020, who made the car payments?
My husband did.
Is that correct?
Yes. I made all of the car payments on that vehicle. All of them, from the time it was purchased until we paid it off.
Okay, so what you're telling me is from 2017, you made all the car payments?
That's correct.
Did your daughter and son-in-law make any of those payments?
Not directly, but they paid toward the balance of the money that they were.
You paid for the truck.
That's correct.
Since 2017, since
correct.
they were married,
Yes.
with no reimbursement.
I took payments out of my daughter's check.
Just be very, very careful with me, sir. I want you to be very careful with me. I read that, what we call in Yiddish, Babameises in here, that you took money out of your daughter's check. Babameises, it means grandma's tale. It means it's not true. It means it doesn't sound right to me. I read it in here. Don't try to repeat it here because that won't be good for you. Okay, I'm going to believe you if you show me copies of her checks that you made to her with withdrawals from money she owed you. That's all I want to see. Do you have that?
I do not.
Not, of course not. Now, he has the truck, and this was clearly either a gift or a marital debt. Either one of those two things. It's either a gift or a marital debt. It was a family car that was used by your daughter, her husband, the grandchildren, with, according to you, no reimbursement, according to you, except this ridiculous reimbursement from your daughter's check, which I don't believe, so I'm not even going into it, with no reimbursement 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020. And when your daughter and the defendant separated in 2020, according to him and according to you, he took the truck and the children. And that was with her consent or not?
Yes, it was.
With her consent. Is that so far right? That's what you're telling me.
It's accurate.
Right. Did you intervene in the divorce proceeding and say that there is money owed, marital debt owed, and part of the marital debt is this loan on the truck?
No.
No. The answer is no, you did not. It would also be fair to say that you don't know how much, according to you, she paid for the truck.
I do, Your Honor. I have that ledger that I have. I would go to her each week and say, Jacqueline, how much can I take toward the loan? And that's how much I would take off each week.
All you have to do, sir, is show me. Otherwise, this is a whole bunch of nonsense.
Yeah.
It's a marital debt. You did not intervene in the divorce proceedings and say, listen, this is a debt that's still outstanding, whatever it is, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. You didn't do that. Now, the only thing that you can say to me with regard to this truck business is if you had, had an agreement with the defendant in 2017 to pay the truck. And be very careful, because what you've told me is he didn't make any payments to you from 2017 ever.
He made some payments.
Just a second. Interesting. Show me where he made payments. Did you give him a receipt for payments?
No, this is a small town, and
It's not a small town, it's a family, sir. It's not a small...
I do have the ledger.
I'm not interested in the ledger you created. It's self-serving and therefore inadmissible and created for the purpose solely of this litigation and not created at the same time that the event took place. I might even cut you a little slack if you had a ledger, a book with entries in it at different times from 2017 in different ink, with a day, how much was paid back on the loan. I guarantee you do not have that. You have a very nice piece of white paper that you created for me. Is that correct? That is correct.
That is accurate.
Okay, so I'm not interested in your ledger. That's not a ledger. That's a document prepared for the purposes of litigation. So I want you to tell me what conversation you had and when with Mr. McDonald about paying for the truck. They bought this boat from you.
Accurate.
And how much did you sell it to them for?
$2,500.
Herman and Tina Smoody claim their former son-in-law, Dalton McDonald, owes for unpaid loans.
Now, I want you to tell me what conversation you had and when with Mr. McDonald about paying for the truck.
That was from the very beginning because I was paying all their bills.
Just a sec. I don't care whether you were paying their bills. I understand you were paying all their bills because they came to live with you for a brief period of time because they were evicted for whatever reason. And that was sometime in 2016. Okay. So I understand that you were paying their bills. Well, sometimes that's what parents do. They pay their bills.
We were paying their bills because they had no checking account.
That doesn't matter to me. I want to know your conversations with, where did it take place? Because you're not suing your daughter, you're suing him.
The conversation was when we rented the farm for them, which I know is not with the truck, but the landlord would not let them rent from them because they had terrible credit.
We'll get to the rent later. Stick with the truck. Don't talk to him when I'm asking him questions.
Well, the truck was the same thing. We put that on the ledger then, or on the running total, and they agreed. They both agreed that they were going to pay us off.
Okay.
He came over on Labor Day weekend, and I showed him the ledger, which he saw all the time.
No. Don't tell me what he saw. Don't tell me what he saw. If what you're saying is you showed him the ledger when he came over with the boys,
yes,
and he was going back to Minnesota.
Right.
And he brought the boys to see you to say goodbye?
Correct.
Okay, so far, it's very nice. You have a reasonable relationship with him, and certainly your daughter was clearly overwhelmed because courts do not usually split up children, so they must have felt that the children's best interest would be served if they remained with their father. Clearly what happened, the father came over to you to let you say goodbye to the children, and when he came over to let you say goodbye to the children, let me understand what you're saying to me. What you said to him was, not thank you for taking over this responsibility. Your daughter had more children than she could take care of, physically or financially, right? Clearly.
Yes.
Clearly. So what you want me to believe that two nice people who took in their daughter with her two kids and a husband and bought a truck and made arrangements for them to have someplace to live, that these two nice people, when he came over, because your daughter couldn't take care of her children, and he brought them to say goodbye, you said, it's very nice. I want you to take a look at this ledger and see how much money you owe me. That's what you're asking me to believe, right? I'm going to let you live with that fantasy that I believe that.
And so I did give him the balance of what he owed me on the rent.
No.
And on the truck.
Nice.
And
he
he looked me in the eye, he shook my hand and said, Jerry, I promise I'm not going to screw you on this. I'm going to make those payments.
Make payments for what?
On the rent and on the truck.
Okay. Did you have that conversation with him?
No, I did not, Your Honor. The conversation was when I came up there the last time, Jerry was trying to sell his fishing boat, so I posted it on Facebook, and I sold it for him.
In what month and year?
That would have been September of 2020. After selling the boat, he gave me $1,200 for helping him.
How much did he sell the boat for?
It was $4,700.
So that was after you'd already moved?
Correct.
With the children?
Yep.
Okay. He helped you sell the boat for $4,700? Just answer my question.
No.
Did you give him $1,200?
No. He bought that boat from me a year prior to that. He had it.
So they bought this boat from you?
Accurate.
When?
That would have been in the spring of 2019.
And how much did you sell it to them for?
$2,500.
Did they pay you for it?
No, part of that was put on the ledger, and part of it was cash.
You know, I'm not buying your whole story. I'm not buying your whole story
sorry,
because what
Your Honor, I'm telling you the honest to God truth.
No, I don't think so. I don't think that I would have sold people who had no credit, who couldn't buy themselves a truck, so you had to co-sign for the only means of transportation that they had, who couldn't pay for their rent, who couldn't pay their bills because of their bad credit. I don't believe this whole scenario about selling them a leisure boat for $2,500. It's mind-boggling that you would think that an intelligent person like me would accept that. Okay, forget the truck. You have the truck now.
Yes.
Okay. You haven't finished your story with me, so sold the boat, and he gave you $1,200.
Correct. I gave him the $1,200 back, which made us even on the truck payment, and he gave me the title. Tina signed it, and then I brought it back to Minnesota and put it in my name.
Okay. Who signed it?
Tina signed it.
My name was on it as well.
Your name?
Yes.
As joint owners with him?
Yep.
Co-signer.
Oh, interesting. In what month did Mrs. Smoody?
Yes.
Sign over the car to you?
The same day that I gave Jerry the $1,200, that would have been in September.
Now, do you remember the $1,200?
No, it was $1,000 that he paid toward the loan when I sold the boat for him.
Okay.
And it was his boat that I sold for him.
Okay. You did not create this as a marital debt. It absolutely was a marital debt. So I'm dismissing that portion of your claim that deals with the truck. Now, let's deal with the rent. The rent that you're talking about was rent in what property?
The farmhouse that they rented.
From when to when?
2016, November 2020.
And over the years that they lived there as a couple.
Yes.
The rent was paid to a landlord.
Correct.
By you.
Yes.
Is that right?
Correct.
And they, your daughter and her husband, would give you cash, checks, or whatever to cover the rent.
Yep.
Yes.
And how much did they give you to cover the rent?
When we started out, rent was $800, and later on he raised it to $900. We never made it a set amount each week. They gave us what they could. And we've done this before in the past, and they've always paid us back.
Well, then you should have sued them and listed all of this as a marital debt in the process of their divorce. So it could all have been...
We're handling Jacqueline in another way.
You what?
We're handling Jacqueline alone.
I don't understand what that means.
Well, you're saying it was marital.
Just a second. Does that mean that you've already served your daughter with a summons?
Not yet, no.
Of course not. Of course not. And you did know when they were divorcing. Yeah. You did know when they were divorcing. I'm not buying anything of this lawsuit, most of which, at least the rent part, is totally stale. I'm just curious, Mr. and Mrs. Smoody. Somebody wants to answer this question for me. Mr. McDonald has custody of your two young grandsons, who I assume that you were close to because they lived with you in your house. And you seem like
live with us. The two boys came back to live with us.
From when to when?
December of 2021 until July of 2022. 6 months we had them.
Just a second, 2022. Was there a court proceeding?
No.
But then in July they went back with their father.
That's accurate.
And they've been with their father since?
Yes.
Okay, so the boys lived with you for 6-7 months.
Right.
Was that an acrimonious transfer? That's what you meant when you said any employer that has gone through all that paperwork and red tape, as I have, will do anything to avoid it. The anything is firing the employee.
And Tina Smoody are accusing their former son-in-law, Dalton McDonald, of refusing to pay back loans.
Was that an acrimonious transfer, or was it something that you both...
What happened there was he called my husband to see if
No, don't tell me what he said to your husband.
Okay,
I will tell you then. He called me in December and asked me if I would please take the two boys. I told him, I will take them, Dalton, if you start making regular payments.
Oh, well, we're out of the money business now, sir. What you're saying is from 2017, when the children were in his custody, your daughter may have been there, but they were in joint custody, and then he maintained custody of the children, and during the time he maintained custody of the children, there was no question whatsoever that he was not paying you back money. He did not make any payments to you. Occasional here and there, we don't keep records. All of a sudden, now you have the boys with you. And then in July, he comes back and he takes the boys back. All I asked you was whether that was an acrimonious, which is an unpleasant, or a harmonious transfer of the children. Mr. Smoody was in July.
In July, it was acrimonious because at that point, he'd gotten a restraining order against me.
Against you?
Against me while we had the children. Because I sent him a letter saying that I wanted payment, and he went and got a restraining order against me because they took that as a threat.
I'd like to see the letter, please, Kevin. And this is what needs to happen moving forward.
That's correct.
You need to mail me $200 on the 1st of every month and $200 on the 15th, starting March 1st, 2022. If I do not get these payments on time, the following will happen, which is, you could say, I'm going to sue you, right? I'm going to sue you, but that's not what you say. You say, I will go to your boss and talk to them about garnishing your wages. Any employer that has gone through all the paperwork and red tape as I have will do anything to avoid it. So that's a threat. What you're saying is, I'm going to call your boss and tell him that I'm going to sue you, and then your boss is going to have to go through all the red tape of what it means to have a garnish on your salary. You have to go through accounting, and they have to deduct it. And no boss wants to do that, which is in effect say, so either you pay me or your boss is going to fire you. That's what you meant when you said Any employer that has gone through all that paperwork and red tape, as I have, will do anything to avoid it. The anything is firing the employee. The only thing that...
You can legally fire somebody.
Just a second. Whether you can legally fire them or not, that's what you were threatening. That's what that said. So we got an order of protection against you.
Correct.
And?
Then I didn't fight it because I didn't anticipate having any conversations or contact with him.
When you wrote this letter,
yes,
you had the boys.
Yes.
Right. Not before.
No.
Not before. And he had the boys for some time alone.
3 months.
He had the boys for some time alone. Okay. Let's go back to my original question, which was, when the boys went back to their father, was it acrimonious or harmonious?
It was not good.
Well, so tell me your version of what happened.
The reason it was acrimonious is because he knew very well that once we got him, we put him on a strict schedule. 8 o'clock, brush your teeth, 8:15, pajamas, 8:30, bed.
Where was your daughter living at this time?
With us.
Yeah, just to say, if you're going to interrupt him because you want to get it out,
I'm sorry.
That's not going to be good for you.
She had a room at our house.
Just a second. So your daughter was living with you. So what you're telling me was your daughter was in the wind someplace.
Accurate.
Okay. You know, you had her for a long time. He only had her for 5 years. And I can understand the sadness if your daughter is in the wind and not being responsible, sir. But that doesn't mean he has to shoulder all the burden. Right now, he's shouldering all the burden of supporting the 2 children, which I assume you're doing. They're living with you. And so are you working?
Yes, I am.
And he's working. Your daughter is not.
She's working 2 jobs.
She always has.
If she's working 2 jobs, why was she in a room?
She wasn't renting. She was living there free.
Okay. So now let's get back to this acrimonious transfer of the children back in July.
Dalton called me, or called the kids.
Okay, so he called the children.
After bedtime.
Okay.
Called my wife's phone 4 times. Ring, 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 ring. And she wouldn't answer because kids were in bed. And then he called my phone twice. The second time, I have an old flip phone. I flipped it, walked in, because now I hear the boys are awake. I let them talk to the boys. And then I took the phone back, and I said some naughty things to him and hung it up.
What did you say naughty things to him for?
Because I was very angry at him. Can I use some swear words that I used when I told him?
No, I assume you used some terrible words.
Yeah,
but
I just told him, don't call me anymore.
Is there any reason that you've discussed with your wife why she didn't answer the phone?
Because the boys were already in bed. He had done that before.
You already told me that you heard the boys, so you took the phone into his room.
After the phone calls, they woke up.
Is what you're telling me that the first time that he tried to talk to the boys, that you or your wife didn't answer the phone?
I think it probably happened once or twice prior, and then we told him, don't do it anymore.
Okay, fine.
And this time we were fed up.
Fine. So that's when he said, I'm coming to take the boys.
No.
Well, when did he say he was coming to take the boys?
Not until July. Jacqueline told us that Dalton was going to be taking the kids once they got out of school.
Okay, I'm going to take the pain out of this case, and I'm going to do it relatively quickly. I think, Mr. and Mrs. Smoody, that this lawsuit was very ill-advised. The defendant doesn't owe you any money. He doesn't owe you any money because if there was money owed, it was a marital debt, and it should have been taken up at the time of the divorce, listed as a marital debt, and then it could have been fixed by the judge who approved the divorce how much and by whom is owed money. You chose not to do that. It was only after a very acrimonious set of circumstances, roughly 5.5 years later, after this truck was purchased, that you chose to exercise any prerogatives with regard to a debt, except this letter, which threatens to go to his boss to get him fired if you don't stop making payments, and that was only after the 2 children came to live with you and were sort of overwhelmed. You have to understand, Mr. McDonald, who I think probably is trying, he's got the 2 boys. It got very complicated, but it's not a lawsuit, and I would make nice with him. He's got 2 children that you probably want to have some connection with, and this lawsuit certainly doesn't help that. Well, anyway, for all the reasons that I've stated, your lawsuit's dismissed. We're finished. Thank you.
Your Honor.
Court is adjourned.
He owes us that money. He admitted he owed us the money.
I think the judge was absolutely correct.
He promised he was going to pay us the money back.
I don't owe Jerry any money.
Kids are irresponsible, have no sense of honor, duty, respect, responsibility, nothing.
It really should be a family thing, and maybe one day it can go back to it.
This was a great case that explains why a lot of cases in civil court have a statute of limitations before you can bring a certain kind of case, because here it was hard for us to understand why they would not have requested that money back earlier. So when you ask for it now, years down the line where so much has happened, court's not so likely to feed into that because you don't know what the real motivation is behind it.
I agree. I think it's really foolish of them, especially since their ex-son-in-law has total custody of these two little boys, for them not to maintain reasonable relationship with him.
It was a good showing, though, that if you do give money to your daughter, son, and their significant other, and they do get divorced, you should follow that divorce proceeding. So if you do have a claim,
a legitimate debt
or claim, then that's the place where you should bring it.
Absolutely.
Jennifer Renner is suing her client, Danny Velasquez, for dance class fees.
Court coming to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2086, Renner versus Velasquez.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss Renner, you run a dance studio.
I do.
How long have you had it?
30 years.
And what age children do you teach?
We have a Mommy and Me class, which starts at 18 months, and our oldest student is 19 years old.
And Miss Velasquez has a daughter. And she was at your school during what period of time?
She started in June of 2020, and she quit in June of this year.
Your lawsuit is simple. You claim that Miss Velasquez owes you money for her daughter's dance lessons.
Yes.
The defendant actually disavows owing you any money. She said that you actually behaved in a mean-spirited way in not allowing her daughter to finish her recital. So I'm trying to think back to my days when I was 6 and 7. And if I remember correctly, the name of the school that I went to, and I know that this is not something that everybody is breathless to hear about, but I haven't had one of these cases. And I was thinking back to Miss Nottage, who had a dancing school in her home on Parkside Avenue in Brooklyn. And I do remember that you took classes for, I took toe, tap, ballet, and acrobatics, which was not my strong suit. Any of them, none of them were my strong suit. Father always said that I should sue the city because they built the sidewalk too close to my behind because my legs are short. So being a ballerina was really not physically possible for me, but in my mind, I thought I was a ballerina. Anyway, as do most little girls, I assume. So you worked during the year, and at the end of the year of your dance class, I remember you gave a recital. Everybody got all excited and dressed for the recital. I assume that's what happens in your class. Yes, that's a yes.
Yes.
Did you have a contract with Miss Velasquez?
I have a registration form which acknowledges receipt of studio policies.
Well, policies is not a contract, but I'll take a look at it anyway. The question is, do you have a signed contract with her?
No.
Okay. May I take a look at that? According to these policies, which are not a written contract because she has not signed this document in particular, you say you acknowledge receipt of it. What it mostly is tell them what the instructions are and give you a release of liability. It does indicate here that full tuition is due on the first class of each month. And how much was the tuition for Miss Velasquez's daughter?
From January through June, it was $170 a month. And then from September through December, it was $165 a month.
Okay, so around $170 a month. And I assume she was current on her tuition in 2020. And in 2020, did Miss Velasquez make her payments on the first of each month?
Well, I can't say exactly on the first, but yes, it was always current, which is why.
That's not what I asked you. Was it made pursuant to your policies here on the first of each month?
I don't know. I don't remember specifically.
What about in 2021? Were her payments made on the first of each month?
No.
When did she stop making payments in 2021 on the first of each month?
Well, I have emailed spreadsheets here, and so starting in December, she asked me if she could make small payments, increments throughout the month because she was a single mother and wasn't able to make the full payment on the first.
So you said yes, that she could make payments incrementally. And do you have that same arrangement with some other parents?
I do.
How many other parents do you have that arrangement with?
Well, anybody who asks in...
How many? You run the school.
5.
How many students do you have?
5.
Okay. So you have that arrangement with this mother plus 5? Mm-hmm. And that is inconsistent with your policies.
Yes.
That would be a yes. Now, tell me what happened, Ms. Velasquez, that caused you to fall behind in your payments. You acknowledge you fell behind in your payments.
Yes, I do.
When did you fall behind in your payments?
I asked Ms. Renner if I could start making payments in September of 2021, which I have written as well, if you would like to see that. And in October, I didn't pay anything because my father passed away. And I explained that to her, and then I made up for it in November through payments, and I just continued to pay as I could with being a single mom.
Well, that's not a reason to not pay her, being a single mom as you could. You understand that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I'm sure you're doing the best you can. You're trying to give your little girl, how old is she?
9.
9. Trying to give her the best possible experience. It's all wonderful, but this is her business. And if you owe her money, then you owe her money. Mm-hmm. Since the policies are honored and sometimes not, there is one part of your policy, even though that this is a contract that I actually find ridiculous, because in your lawsuit, you claim you're owed $946 and $7,169.76 interest. That's not happening. And it's not happening. You gave me an easy out because you really don't enforce your own policies.
I try to be kind to people who
And I
need
try
help.
to be kind too. Being kind is not suing somebody for $900 and suing them for $9,000. That's not being kind, because, you know, there's no question that you agree that you owe her some money.
Yeah.
Okay? But it's an unconscionable, even if there was a contract for it, I would probably find it an unconscionable piece for somebody who owes you less than $1,000 and you want $7,200 because it includes interest. I find that ridiculous. How many students were in Ms. Velasquez's class?
Approximately 18.
When you say approximately 18, the number varied based on what?
Well, my memory, it was either 18 or 19 children. I don't remember how many. That's a very large class.
Are you the sole teacher?
Well, I do the ballet, and I have a teacher who teaches the jazz class.
Your daughter takes ballet or jazz, or both?
Yeah.
Your daughter stopped going to school when?
May 17th.
Tell me the circumstances.
That was when I got a ledger from the studio that said that I owed $965. And my math was thinking I was closer to like $360. So I kept messaging and asking where the confusion was. And I didn't get a response until May 27th.
That said what?
That said I owed $1,300. And this was from Miss Jenny.
And that was for late fees? What was it for?
The dance team and the costumes for the recital that was coming up.
Okay. Well, do you have a ledger? And I'd like to see your ledger. So far, I have, according to you, what you owe, because you did a breakdown of what you owe. It is your claim that you owe $846, correct?
Yep.
And she says you owe $946. That's without the interest and the late fees.
Yeah.
So you are actually, based upon raw numbers, $100 apart.
I have an email from her stating that she owes $947.
I'd like to see it, please.
And later today.
Do you keep a certain amount of clothes at Miss Barnes' apartment?
No, Your Honor, they're usually in my truck.
So you stay with your mom?
Yeah, that's my primary residence. Like, it's maybe two days out of a week.
Mr. White, this is what we're getting. You see where we're starting to smile?
Jennifer Renner claims her client, Danny Velasquez, owes for dance class fees.
Okay, so in this email, you acknowledge owing $586 and then $360 for team. What is team?
They did like competition teams that I allowed my daughter to be on. Before I let her audition, I made sure that Jenny was okay with my payments, and I sent it all in.
No, I'm just reading the email, which seems to acknowledge that you owed her $947.
Yeah, so the team portion was $361, which is what I thought was owed.
No, you said team, and your regular tuition said that I owed $1,301 when I only owed $586. So $586 and $361 and $947.
You're correct. I just couldn't get any accurate numbers.
I'm taking your numbers that you acknowledge.
Right. First she said it was $1,647 I owed, then she said $1,400.
Right now I have, she says amount owed $946. You said it was $947. So let's say it's $947. And that's without late fees and without interest. So you would consider that a fair number.
Yeah.
And Ms. Rayner, you would consider that a fair number?
Yes.
Judgment for the plaintiff. We're finished. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
I think it was fair. I just wish that my daughter would have been able to dance.
Money was due to me, and she was not paying.
I had to go in and be the one that broke her heart.
She argued with every statement we sent her.
We've already found a new studio, and it's amazing.
Pay your bills.
It's a big blessing in disguise that my daughter's not with Jenny anymore.
I'm sure you were a great dancer back in your day. Maybe ballet now isn't for you, but I'm sure you were the cutest one in the class. But I do think it was unconscionable for the owner of the dance studio to agree that the mother only owed around $900, and she wanted to have this court pay her almost $9,000 in late fees and interest. I mean, I think just unconscionable.
It was a good shot. You know, usually when you do a contract, a formal contract, contracts usually say if any part of this contract is found to be either unconscionable or illegal, the remainder of the contract remains in full force and effect. Usually you have something that says that. Well, this was just an acceptance of the school policy, but the school policy clearly was flexible.
It was, and as soon as she said that, I was hoping that she would have drawn up for those 5 or 6 parents that were on a different payment plan. I would have hoped that she, as a business owner, would have drawn up something mimicking a contract with them to show what their agreement was.
Memorialize that agreement.
Because as you said, well, if you're flexible on this point and that point, why are you not flexible on the interest that you...
interest point,
exactly.
which sounded unconscionable.
It did.
Anyway, I really, Sarah, remember those dance classes and crossing Parkside Avenue to go to Miss Nottage's studio. The thing that I remember most about it was the acrobatics class. I swear they had something strung up that looked like a torture chamber. It was strung up from the ceilings and you were put in a harness. You started from one end of the room, and when you got to the minute, she pulled you up on a pulley and you were supposed to do a somersault. And I remember I couldn't get off the ground. My little chubby legs were
flailing,
and I couldn't get my behind over the rest of my body.
Listen, I'm not a dancer either.
And then I started thinking about law school.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Xin chào các bạn, chào mừng các bạn đã đến với những vlog tô màu tranh của mình. Hôm nay mình cùng các bạn sẽ tô màu cho bức tranh về một chú Pikachu nha. Đây là bức tranh của mình ngày hôm nay. Các bạn cùng mình bắt tay vào và tô màu nhé. Trước tiên thì mình sẽ tô phần má cho bạn Pikachu nha. Chiếc má màu đỏ nha mọi người. Giờ thì mình sẽ tô màu vàng cho toàn bộ phần thân của bạn Pikachu. Trước tiên sẽ là 2 chiếc tay và khuôn mặt nhé. Giờ mình sẽ tô toàn bộ phần thân nhé. Cuối cùng là tô màu cho chiếc đuôi. Chiếc đuôi có hình sấm sét. Đức làm chưa? Làm chưa? Bức tranh về bạn Pikachu của mình đã được mình hoàn thiện xong rồi nhé. Cảm ơn mọi người đã theo dõi video này của mình. Hãy like, share và subscribe để ủng hộ các video tiếp theo của mình nha. Nếu mọi người có ý kiến gì về bức tranh của ngày hôm nay thì hãy để lại phần bình luận bên dưới video này nha. Video của mình đến đây là kết thúc. Cảm ơn các bạn.